It is Michigan Football Report Rumors Roundup, plus a big interview with the former Michigan quarterback. We're going to get into 3 top rumors before we get to the Big 12 Rumor Roundup here to take on the Michigan Football Report. Biggest rumor out there right now, Pep Hamilton and Tim Drevno, are they returning in 2018? Well, we have it from a very good source we'll discuss later in the show. This is 4 Harbaugh heads, folks. Hamilton and Drevno will return in 2018. They will stay in their same positions, offensive coordinator, passing game coordinator as well. This is big news. All right, Shea Patterson wearing number 20 in Michigan? No, baby, he is wearing number 2, the famed Heisman Trophy number 2 from 21 years ago. Charles Woodson wore it from 1995 to 1997, made it famous, still Michigan's #1 selling jersey over the past decade, even with Woodson being out of Michigan since 1997. This is 4 Harbaugh heads. He put it on his Snapchat 2 nights ago. Lena, Jet Sports, the first news organization to report it on Monday night. Last big-time rumor, 2017. Was that Harbaugh's worst season of his coaching career? We're talking San Diego, Stanford, the 49ers, and Michigan. Statistically, it was his worst. One college football stats analyst guy, who we'll talk about later, the CFB Matrix is what he calls himself, Lena. He said that not only was this Harbaugh's worst season ever in his career statistically against opponents, he also gives the offense an F-, one of the worst in the Big Ten. Only one they went worse than, according to his rankings, was Rutgers. That is your big 3 rumors to start off the show. This is James Yoder with Lena Bond, Michigan Football Report coming at you.
Hello and welcome into the Michigan Football Report. I'm Lena Bond, and this is the Michigan Football Insider, James Yoder. James, we've got a lot to get to today. 12 news and rumors. Shea Patterson wearing a new number, some potential coaching changes to brush over, and tons of recruiting to talk about with National Signing Day right around the corner.
Yeah, 1 week left in National Signing Day, Lena, February 7th. Not as much positive news as we've seen in past years under Jim Harbaugh. Really only 2 recruits that Michigan even has a chance with at this point. So we'll get to that in the rumor segment, but have a big interview coming up that you'll talk about now.
Exactly. So in preparation for National Signing Day, Chat Sports got to sit down with former Michigan quarterback Alex Malzone. Malzone talked about Brady Hoke playing under Jim Harbaugh, and also what he thinks of Michigan's 2018 quarterback situations. Without further ado, here's James Yoder and our very own Jordan Giorgio with Alex.
Joining us now is Alex Malzone, 2015 4-star recruit. He spent the last 3 years at Michigan and will be grad transferring to Miami, Ohio, where he will have 2 years of eligibility to play under head coach Chuck Martin. Alex, thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, happy to be here. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Glad to have you, Alex. So let's think back to when you were a high school recruit. So you committed to Michigan leading up to Brady Hoke's final year when the program was a little bit more turmoil, and then there was a coaching change right before you end up enrolling at Michigan. So talk about that senior year of yours in high school. Did you ever think about looking at any other schools given the uncertainty at the coaching position at Michigan?
Yeah, I definitely did. I mean, I know I committed my junior year, May, going into my senior football season. I was recruited under Brady Hoke and Coach Nussmeier. And I know that throughout the year they weren't doing well, and I was definitely in contact with some other colleges during that time. They were kind of just asking me if I was going to stay committed or if I would visit other schools or what exactly would happen if Coach Hoke would be fired. I told every single one of them that my commitment was pretty solid. I had a good relationship with Coach Nussmeier. And then obviously when the season started going south, there's a lot of rumors saying that Coach Hoke was going to get fired, which he eventually did. Then once Coach Harbaugh, he was announced new head coach, I was scheduled to enroll early there in January 2015, probably about 2-3 weeks. So it's kind of, he got announced, I talked to him, about 3 days later after he was made the head coach. And, yeah, decided to enroll early still. So, yeah.
So talk about that transition from being recruited by one staff and then you have this new coach come in. What was your first experience like with Coach Jim Harbaugh when you took that first phone call from him?
I mean, I know he had a pretty great background coming back from from Stanford and the 49ers. So I was excited to get working with him. I know the whole Michigan team, right when I got on campus, was pretty excited for him as well. At the time coming in, there was only 2 quarterbacks on scholarship, which were Golden Spate and Shane Morris. So I mean, that spring ball got a lot of reps, which went great. And yeah, I mean, I was a part of some good teams here and saw minimal time, but yeah, I mean, I definitely loved my 3 years that I was here for.
And Alex, you'll be graduating from Michigan in April, then transferring to Miami, Ohio. Tell us about that decision.
Yeah, so I mean, I know the grad transfer, it's pretty common nowadays with a lot of guys. I was fortunate enough to be allowed to not grad transfer, but early enroll here from high school early. And then I majored in econ. It's been pretty difficult, but was able to graduate in 3.5 years, and I'll have 2 years left. But I was kind of just looking for somewhere where I would get more of a shot to play, and I know Miami, Ohio is definitely going to be that place. They're a great school academically. Miami, Ohio is one of the schools that recruited me out of high school heavily with Coach Martin and Coach Kaler. And, yeah, I'm definitely excited for that opportunity, and I think it's going to be a great fit.
Well, you mentioned that you were looking for somewhere to play. What other schools were options for you, and what does that process of selecting a school to transfer to look like?
Yeah, so I announced kind of right after the year. I think it was December. So what, about a month and a half ago, 2 months ago. And early on, I had talked to Iowa State, Boston College a little bit, but kind of didn't really talk to them towards the end. When it came down to it, it's like Miami, Ohio, Rice University, and Coastal Carolina. I had a visit lined up with Rice University and was probably going to visit Coastal Carolina as well. But I mean, it's different from like being recruited out of high school, because I know it's kind of with timing, and I mean, they kind of have like their 1 and their 2 and their 3, and there's going to be guys going there every weekend. So just after my visit at Miami, definitely felt a great connection with the coaching staff there. Facilities were unbelievable, and they definitely had a couple of great graduate programs that I was interested in. So I knew that was definitely the right fit, and yeah, decided to commit.
So when you think about Miami's quarterback situation, we've got Gus Ragland, took over last year, has got another year of eligibility in 2018. With 2 years of eligibility, what do you expect as far as a competition aspect? Are you going into this next season expecting to compete for the role, or are you biding your time until 2019?
Yeah, I mean, I know anywhere I was going to go, there's going to be a little competition, and I know I've been used to that here. My freshman year, Jake Rudock came in, and yeah, I was kind of told I was going to redshirt, but the following 2 years there was a little bit of competition each year, and yeah, I didn't win either of those competitions, but yeah, I mean, I'm excited to get down there and get things rolling. I know the offense definitely suits me, and I know Gus has done a great job with the offense down there, being a playmaker for them and being a leader. So I mean, I'm excited to get down there and compete, and yeah, I guess we'll see what happens.
So one last question just about your time at Michigan. So Wilton Spate and yourself are moving on, but Dylan McCaffrey, Brandon Peters, and now Shea Patterson are going to be battling for the quarterback position in Michigan next year. What are Michigan fans, what could they expect from those 3 players from what you've seen both as a teammate and now in the last few weeks with Shea Patterson coming on campus?
Yeah. I mean, I definitely have a really good relationship with Wilton Spate and Brandon Peters. Played along Wilton ever since I got here, and played along against BP for 2 years now. And definitely highly respect those guys. I know Wilton's going to go somewhere and do big things. BP, I know he came in there and got a shot this year and played very well. Bowl game kind of went south in the second half, but I mean, that's football. Those things happen. Dylan, he's definitely a very athletic player and a very smart kid. So, I mean, I'm excited to see what he can do in the future. So, I mean, just going into next year, I know it's pretty much an open battle right now. And Pep Hamilton and Coach Drevno are going to be coming back. I know Brandon definitely has a good relationship with those two. And, I mean, last year our offensive production wasn't very high. But, I mean, I think that BP can kind of go into the spring and in the summer with somewhat of a leadership role and kind of get those guys to rally around him. I know Shea's a great player. I actually played baseball with Shea when we were younger.
Really? Back
in middle school, we were playing a pretty high travel baseball team. So, I mean, I know that he's a great athlete, and he's definitely going to be a serious contender. But, yeah, I mean, I'm excited. I know that it's going to be a competition between the QB room, and they will obviously play the best guy. But, yeah, I mean, I'm just super excited to see what the team can do. I know this year our production, and we kind of folded a little bit. But I'm excited to see what the young guys can do, and super excited for them for next year.
And finally, Alex, you'll be a grad student at Miami, Ohio. What do you plan on getting your master's degree in?
So I'm actually applying to the Masters of Economics through the School of Business there. I kind of was pressed with time with the application. I got a couple more days that I got to finish it by. Currently working on it now. So that's a one-year program, and it's a pretty highly regarded program. They only accept 20 people. So I'm excited to apply to that and hopefully get into that one. And then the year after that, I would actually do another graduate program. I would probably be doing the Masters of Political Science. That's the plan right now, at least.
You're going to be a busy bee. Well, his name is Alex Malzone. He spent the last 3 years at Michigan, and he will be a graduate transfer to Miami, Ohio, where he will be eligible for the next 2 seasons. Alex, best of luck to you, and thanks so much for joining us.
Yep. Yeah. Thank you guys very much for having me.
All right, that was Alex Malzone sitting down with James and Jordan. Today's show is presented by Mizzen in Maine. And if you're wondering why James is looking so handsome over here, it's the Mizzen in Maine shirt, ladies. He is rocking it today and soft.
It's very soft. I mean, I literally, I'm not going to joke on this one. Had to take my car in this morning. Little automotive needs on the car. I tossed this shirt on with sweatpants. I didn't feel out of order. I felt like it was performance fabrics. It's stretchy, feels great. Forgot I was doing the show today, so tossed a sports coat with it. But I didn't need one. It's phenomenal. I love this shirt. Performance wear dress shirts. No iron.
Nope.
No iron needed at all. And you can wear it to the bar. You can wear it to the office. Anything. I love Mizzen in Maine. Go to comfortable.af is the website. Probably the best website outside of Chat Sports you can have as far as at least a domain is concerned.
I would agree with that one, James. All right, so we did just speak with Alex Malzone.
Yeah.
He brushed over a bunch of different things, James. So what did you really take away from that interview?
Well, he seemed a little bit more high on Brandon Peters and Dylan McCaffrey. Didn't have much to say on Shea Patterson. Now, I know that's the reason being is, he's known Peters for a couple years as teammates, McCaffrey for the last 6-8 months or so. But he did show some insight that he's known Shea Patterson since, probably 6, 8, 7 years. I'm not sure. Shea Patterson hasn't lived in Ohio since, I believe it was 4th or 5th grade, whatever it was. So they probably have known each other since 2nd, 3rd, 4th grade because Patterson then moved south. I'm guessing that played baseball against each other when they were both growing up, Toledo, southern Michigan, where Malzone grew up. So that was a pretty interesting take. It was interesting the schools he looked at. Decided to go to a MAC school, also a school that he looked around when Brady Hoke was kind of almost getting fired or things were going downhill in 2014. He recognized as the recruit. I don't think the recruits are stupid. They know what's going on. So he looked around, looked at Miami, Coastal Carolina, I think is a school. He mentioned for transfer. Also, as a transfer, looked at Iowa State and ultimately settled on Miami. Pre-existing relationship with the coach. Good graduate school program. He'll have a chance to get 2 master's degrees in Miami in his 2 years there. Quarterback situation will have a better chance to play. But the biggest kind of bombshell he dropped on us, or biggest thought he dropped on us, was related to the Michigan coaching situation. So that's going to be our top rumor coming in hot off the top right here with the Rumors Roundup.
All right, let's take it away then. So first one being Hamilton Hamilton and Drevno, are they returning in 2018, James?
Well, it seems like they are, Lena, and I wasn't 100% sure about this one. We've been giving this a 3 Harbaugh head for the past few shows. It seemed likely. We thought maybe Pep Hamilton might be going to the pros. We thought maybe Tim Drevno would be taking a job, whether the pros or another school. He's also wanted a head coaching job. He told Chat Sports that in 2016, Drevno, that he wanted a head coaching job. With the Michigan offense grading an F, as we talked about in that little teaser from one statistical analytical expert. It's no surprise these guys couldn't get jobs. And Jim Harbaugh bringing them back. Malzone, one of the nuggets, whether he meant to or not, that he dropped on us was that with Hamilton and Drevno returning in 2018 was what he specifically said. So Malzone dropped that. I don't think it's any big breaking story. The writing's been on the wall. The only thing we were kind of holding out for was whether or not Pep Hamilton would get that job, maybe with the Oakland Raiders, we'll talk about here in a second, and where Dan Enos would maybe replace him, potentially a co-offensive coordinator, or if Enos would have gotten the offensive coordinator role, and Drevno would have gone on to maybe an associate head coaching job, but pull the playbook calling duty on that. Enos leaves. That was writing on the wall that no one's leaving. Hamilton's not necessarily getting a job, and then Alex Malzone confirmed to Chat Sports exclusively that he will be in fact returning. And by the way, we're going to talk to a bunch of Michigan recruits on our next week's signing day show. We got guys like Mustafa Muhammad, and a few other ones, a couple of offensive linemen, defensive linemen like Aiden Hutchinson. So next week's show is going to be an awesome one. All
right, before we get to the rest of our news and rumors, let's bring up the rumor-o-meter scale. You guys might be wondering what all these Harbaugh heads means, all right? So 0 Harbaugh heads is fully no. Oh, we messed it up. We're so good. We're so good. No, ready? 3, 2, 1. Fake news. Okay, 1 Harbaugh head means small shredded truth. 2 Harbaugh heads means people are talking. Okay, 3 Harbaugh heads is pretty likely, and 4 Harbaugh heads is F-A-C-K fact, because that is how Jim Harbaugh spells it. But let's continue on these news and rumors. Drevno and Hamilton, are they unfireable, James?
Well, so this has been a message board rumor, so I'm not even going to give it that much credibility, Lena, but there is maybe a small shred of truth at the financial situation. So this is a 1 Harbaugh head, means there's a small shred of truth in this one. This has been put out there in message boards, people trying to connect dots. We talked about our last Michigan show last week. We're connecting dots here, and we looked at the contract situation. I don't know what Jim Harbaugh is thinking. I don't know how the Michigan athletic director, Ward Manuel, or the greater university as a whole has allowed him to put these kind of contracts in front of assistant coaches. So Tim Drevno is going into now year 2 of a 5-year extension that's going to pay him over $1 million a year with retention bonuses, right? And so they're going to have a big chunk of change to get him to walk away unless he got a job somewhere else. And that's kind of what we've been hinting. Jim Harbaugh's not going to fire these guys. They don't want to come out of pocket that money. So take a job. Maybe he doesn't make as much, but Michigan's only on the hook for the difference in what they would make at their new job and what they would have made at Michigan. The crazy thing about Pep Hamilton right now that I just came across today, me and you were talking about this in pre-show meeting, is he's getting a $400,000 bonus for being on the staff in year 2. So this is absurd to me. He will be the 3rd highest paid assistant in the entire country in 2018. Shall he actually, in fact, be on the sidelines? A $400,000, $40 year 2 retention bonus. I think they probably put that in there to try and keep him, but it may be deterring him. But people putting the dots together and saying this is the only reason, like Michigan couldn't afford it. Really, at the end of the day, if Harbaugh knew his job would be on the line in a year or 2 by keeping these guys, if they couldn't get the job done, heck, he makes $8 million a year himself. He might write the check alone, but Stephen Ross is donating $100 million every other year to the school, owner of the Miami Dolphins. Michigan would have came up with the cash if that was it, but I don't think this is a good precedent for Michigan to be signing these coaches these long-term contracts. Under Lloyd Carr back in the day, coaches were on a 1-year contract every single year. No one ever got a 2-year contract until, funny enough, the season prior to when he retired in 2006-07, he gave everybody 2-year contracts. Reason being, he wanted them to have financial security after he retired.
All right, keep it on this Pep train. James, the Raiders didn't hire Pep. We're giving this one 4 Harbaugh
Well,
heads.
I mean, they've hired the quarterbacks coach, and it's Bill Callahan's son, the old Raiders coach, and then Nebraska head coach. Michigan fans remember him as the head coach of that 2005 Michigan-Nebraska bowl game that Michigan lost. So this is pretty disappointing. This is a 4 Harbaugh head. This is FACK because this is what we were kind of holding out for. It's like, okay, we're going to wait. They didn't announced this job early on, didn't announce this job early on, but we are going to kind of wait and see after signing day. Does Pep Hamilton move on? Does, then Michigan make an announcement of a new offensive coordinator, a passing game coordinator? A guy like Dan Enos waiting for that $600,000 promotion. But with the Raiders coaching job full, there's only one job out there, Lena, that maybe he could take, and that's with the Arizona Cardinals. Now, my knowledge as of yesterday, I haven't checked today, they have not hired a quarterbacks coach. The new head coach of the Arizona Cardinals is a childhood friend, went to the same high school as Pep Hamilton. So there was a rumor out there, but from what we were told by Alex Malzone, then this Raiders job, I think it's pretty likely that, not pretty likely, it's an FACK. He's not getting the Raiders job, of course, and he will be back in 2018. So I think the Arizona Cardinal one is not going to happen.
All right, Pep is sticking around in 2018. Let's bring it to our fourth rumor here. Does D'Antonio already have a replacement lined up,
Well,
James?
let's get this one later. Right there. 1, 2, 3.
Fake news.
So this is put out there by Jim Stefani, right? This is a fairly reputable recruiting guy. He's been around the block for 20-plus years. Ironically, lives in Europe, but somehow stays in the loop. He's kind of turned the message boards 24/7 and Rivals and Scout and some others into like his own personal blog, and he goes on these long, 1,000-word message board posts and been really ramping it up lately. He was the one who put out the news about the coaches talking trash on Harbaugh, the former Michigan player. That came, via him, and then we confirmed it with some other sources. But he put this out there this week on one of the premium message boards, and people just ridiculed him left and right. He got I talked to someone high up at Michigan State. Enos is going to be the guy. He's a program guy, played here, coached here. Him and D'Antonio had some beef apparently when he left to go to Central Michigan, but he's going to come back, and Saban vouched for him, and people just ridiculed him. And I haven't heard a shred of evidence that he would even consider Enos. I think that would be one of these hires that their coaching staff or their fan base coming off of Mark D'Antonio would basically blow a gasket, something like Tennessee did. When they were thinking about bringing on a different coach this offseason. We all saw what happened there with Greg Schiano, just rioting in the streets. And so I think it's totally fake news. I don't buy it for a second. If you see that, that Dan Enos is going to be Michigan State's head coach should Mark D'Antonio get fired or resign based on the outside the line reports about allegations into, player conduct related to, sexual misconduct and other things, I don't buy it for a second. So we're giving that one fake news. The only fake news of the week, by the way. It's a disappointing week. We only get to say it once in unison.
All right. Number 5 was 2017 Harbaugh's worst coaching year of his whole career, James.
Well, I mean, I didn't even need to see this report. It was put out by a guy on Twitter. He's an analytical expert on college football, and he basically put out his and it was featured on landof10.com. They're the one who published it, but this guy puts all this stuff on Twitter. They kind of compiled it. They took all of Jim Harbaugh's coaching statistics going back to 2004 at San Diego, and that's why we're giving this one a 3 Harbaugh Head, because you can't really grade this unless you go just on record alone, and that of course is not the case, because he went 4-7, 4-8 in his first year at Stanford after they were 0-12 the year before he got there. So definitely not his worst record. But a couple of things to note: the first time any Harbaugh coaching staff, and this guy, you can go back and rank all this stuff. It's more about efficiency, red zone efficiency, touchdowns, all the different stats that coaches care about. First time he's ever given a Harbaugh unit, offense, defense, special teams, an F like the Michigan offense got this year. And then also an interesting note: this is the first year. The second year, but really the first year with any job stability, that Jim Harbaugh has won fewer games than the year before as head coach. If you think about San Diego, he went from 7 games to 11-11. Then it was with Stanford, 4, 5, 9, and 11. And then for the 49ers, basically the NFC Championship, Super Bowl, whatever, that kind of thing. So he didn't go down, but he had that 8-8 year, the final one, and then 10-10, and now 8 at Michigan in year 3. So those two factors, I'm giving him a 3 Harbaugh Head. But if you wanna argue with me that this is FACK's worst year, I'm not going to dispute you by any means. All
right, 3 Harbaugh Heads on that one, maybe 4. Let's move it on to number 6. Shea Patterson. Did he pick a Heisman-worthy number? James, is a little bit funner one.
Oh yeah, this is FACK fact. He put it out there on Snapchat a couple nights ago. Chat Sports is the first one to break it. We returned it. We recorded this off his Snapchat. We messaged him. I haven't got a firm message back from him yet. But with that being said, Shea Patterson is dropping the number 20, and he is going to the number 2, the famed Charles Woodson Heisman number. Also, from the quarterback position, Johnny Manziel wore that number 2. I believe Cam Newton wore that number 2 when he was in college, not, of course, the pros. But he put this out there, posted this on his Snapchat, posted the Michigan cleats. This is cool. I hated the number 20. I'm just going to be honest. It reminds me of when Devin Gardner wore number 98 at Michigan. Just made no sense. Number 2 is going to look awesome. I can't wait to see him on the field.
All right, we're going to bring up a reaction poll here presented presented by Mizzen and Maine. What do you guys think about Shea Patterson wearing number 2? Do you love it? Throw us a heart. And if you say prove it on the field, which, might be a valid point, give us a thumbs up.
I'm going back and forth. I'm going to pull up my phone now. I'm just going to go back and forth on Facebook Live right now. Give it a heart, give it a love, because I love it, because I didn't like the number 20. I love these single-digit jerseys on skill position players, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. But you also got to prove it. Like if he wears number 2 and they go 8 and 5 again, it's not going to matter for a second. But I think if I only have these 2 choices, I'm going to go with a love it, Lane. I like this number. I love it, and don't necessarily think 20 would have looked very good at Michigan.
Yeah, I love the enthusiasm as well. So I'm throwing up a heart. All right, guys, we just broke down 6 bits of news and rumors from the Michigan Wolverine football program. Let's get on to number 7 now, guys. And at number 7, we're going to be talking about.
Well, so we've got a big recruiting rumor story at number 7. So we've got another Patterson.
Ready?
So this isn't Shea Patterson. This is Jarrett Patterson.
We tried getting you guys a little bit.
So Shea Patterson, no. Jarrett Patterson is an offensive lineman out of Southern California. Did he eliminate Michigan, Lena? It's a 4 Harbaugh head.
Yep,
it is F-A-C-K on this one, because he basically was down to Michigan, Notre Dame, and UCLA. Now, we put out some news. We gave, I believe, 3 Harbaugh heads last week that he was down to Michigan, Notre Dame, and he ended up kind of put out that he was not feeling UCLA, but something happened in the past week. He said he wanted to narrow it down to 2 schools for signing day, and he just said, he did say if Tim Drevno wasn't in Michigan, I would have eliminated. If he were to move on, I wouldn't be very comfortable with that school at all. He was considering him for Drevno alone. And Notre Dame doesn't even have an offensive line coach, but they are the biggest competition. I think he's going to land at Notre Dame. So Jarrett Patterson, probably Michigan's most likely target to get that hasn't committed to them yet, is not on the board anymore. So Michigan might not have a single new recruit the rest of the cycle.
All right, some disappointing recruiting rumors coming out of Ann Arbor. Let's go ahead and move on to number 8 now. Does Jim Harbaugh fly coach?
Well, so this one kind of blew up on Twitter, Lena, yesterday. So we're giving this one a 3 Harbaugh head. It's pretty likely. I would have assumed with all the big budget that Michigan has, with the $8-9 million salary that he has, the $150 million Nike contract, that Michigan would just let Jim Harbaugh fly to Michigan, down to Tampa, Florida, where he was going to visit a recruit, which we'll talk about here in a few minutes. He would be flying first class minimum, or he'd be flying a private jet, just kind of pop down, pop back up. And I know he did do that during their their summer swarm of satellite camps. But for this one, Lena, he's flying coach. And now we can't say F-A-C-K because this is not a stop picture from there.
No.
This is another photo we found of him flying coach on another flight. But I've heard this before. People kind of buzzing about it, that he was flying out of DFW, Detroit's airport. I'm sorry, not DTW, Detroit's airport yesterday morning, flying down. And then later in the day, we heard that he was doing an in-home visit with a 5-star recruit we'll talk about here in a second. But pretty interesting. I wouldn't be caught dead flying coach if I was making $9 million a year, but that's just me.
All right, Harbaugh, a man of the people. Let's move on to our 9th bit of information here. Michigan, are we pulling even for a 5-star recruit,
Yeah,
James?
I don't really think so, Lana, to be honest. I don't think this one is happening. The guy, the young man's name is Nicholas Petit-Frere.
Not so petite, as I like to
very
say.
Petite. So we're going to say 1 Harbaugh head. There might be a shred of truth that he's considering Michigan. Had Jim Harbaugh in-house yesterday, Lena, welcomed into his home. And by the way, we are going to be bringing his recruitment, his commitment, live on the Cam Rogers show next Wednesday morning. He's going to be announcing it with other people, but then we're going to pull him on. Not 100% confirmed. I'm saying it's 95% at this point. He's going to come on and do an interview with Chat Sports. He'll talk about why he did or did not choose the Michigan Wolverines, why maybe he chose Florida, Notre Dame, and the other schools he's going in there. But people are trying to put out there, this is spin zone. And I want to kind of talk about spin zone. People talk about fake news sometimes and people reporting things that are wildly inaccurate. What I consider fake news, Lena, is giving what these recruiting pundits, specifically the ones that are in Ann Arbor and working and only reporting on Michigan or other schools, is they give people this false hope. And they can't just say, hey, it's not really likely. So a guy named Zach Shaw went on the air this morning, WTKA, and he basically said the reason that Michigan's not going to have Patterson is because they stopped recruiting him because they feel that they're locked in with this guy. So it's getting people's hopes up that this guy on radio that claims to have inside information is giving him false hope. But this is not happening with Nicholas Petit-Frere. He is not pulling even. Michigan is not there with Notre Dame or Florida. He's going to go to Florida, maybe Notre Dame. I don't think there's a chance, although you have a small sliver of hope with 1 Harbaugh head because Jim Harbaugh had kind of one of the last chances to get him in home with his parents as coaches yesterday. But I don't like the fake news of saying like, oh, we lost this guy. It's because we're going to get this better guy. Not happening there. And I hope that guy recants or apologizes to fans next Wednesday when he chooses a school other than the University of Michigan.
All right, number 10, we have Otis Reese, another person Michigan's very hot on. Is he going to be a Georgia Bulldog, James?
Well, folks, let's just break it down. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but Otis Reese, he's in Georgia. Well, because he lives in Georgia, also went to Georgia, the university this weekend, doesn't necessarily mean he is going to play at Georgia. This one's for Harbaugh Head, FACK. He visited Georgia this past week, right? So he went on his official visit to Georgia. A couple weeks ago, he was at Michigan. 3 weeks ago, he was at Central Michigan. So I'm not sure what you can take away from his visits calendar, to say the least. But very similar path to his former high school teammate, Aubrey Solomon, a true freshman starter for Michigan in 2017. Commit to Michigan way early before your junior year even starts. Then waffle, waiver, not really give the best thoughts on Michigan. Take a visits elsewhere, kind of be seen wearing around town, wearing Georgia, Florida, Alabama hats. And then when it comes down to it, take a few visits late to other schools. But when it comes to signing day, put the Michigan hat on. So he did go to Georgia this weekend, but I still think it is more likely than not, if I was going to give his commitment or his ultimately signing with Michigan, I give it a 3 Harbaugh Head. I think it's pretty likely at this point. If he picks Georgia, I would be quite surprised but not shocked at this point.
All right, we'll keep you guys updated on Otis Reese. Let's move on to our next rumor. Calvin Anderson, is he a no-go for transferring to Michigan?
Well, he had a very lukewarm, tweet about his visit with Michigan. It was more like thanks but no thanks tweet. And I can kind of just paraphrase what the tweet was. It was like, thank you so much for Michigan for hosting me. I appreciated you teaching me about your history and your tradition. Nothing like, I want to come there or like super excited. Nothing that makes you feel that he's like on the path. And so what we've been hearing for the past few days is it is pretty likely. I would say it's 3.5 Harbaugh Heads. He will be going to the University of Texas. I don't think he's going to end up at Michigan, although Michigan did visit him twice, did go and visit his parents. He's from Austin. They went to Houston, where Rice is, went and visited his parents. He came to Ann Arbor, and then, of course, Tim Drevno and him went to Top Golf out there in Houston and hit the virtual links. But it doesn't sound like he's going to come to Michigan, which is kind of a disappointment because they really, really, really need him. So he's not going to be more likely than not on Michigan roster in 2018. All
right, last rumor we have for you guys. Are Michigan men going to be hitting the workout 6 a.m. Monday morning?
Well, I mean, this is FACK, Lena. This is a fact because they were, taking pictures, and the new strength and conditioning coach is putting up photos all over the internet. Guys hitting the weights at 6:30, doing runs, and for what we told you last week, we were the ones who said that he is getting all kinds of buy-in from players. He's bringing a new mentality. He is basically saying, like, do you want to be 8-5? That's 8-5 output. This is 12-0 output. This is Alabama level output. Although he's from Arkansas, but he does have 3 Big Ten championships on his resume as strength and conditioning coach at Wisconsin. So they are really buying in. This picture right here was posted on the Michigan Twitter account this morning, day 3 of this training. There's Herbert. He's the guy in kind of the background of that photo with the bald head, right? That is the man. He is in the background. I don't know what's going on with the guy in the very middle towards the top of the photo. He's about to puke. He's hands on knees early on in the day, not making these sprints. So it looks like these guys are being worked really hard. FACK on this bad boy.
All right, those were our 12 bits of news and rumors. But, James, I do want to brush over those 3 rumors we had in the Rapid Rumor segment. I think those are the most important, bits of information coming out of Ann Arbor right now.
Yeah, so let's talk about this first one. Hamilton and Drevno to return. That is the one that I think is the most newsworthy, the most impactful to the long-term viability of Michigan's football program, right? If Pep Hamilton and Tim Drevno, which Alex Malzone told us will be returned in 2018, I think it says a few things. One is that Dan Enos did leave because he was only interested in being the OC. Maybe Jim Harbaugh put the sales job on him a little too much, that he was going to be the next offensive coordinator. He just waited out a few weeks till these guys got different jobs. I also think it means that Drevno and Hamilton couldn't get a job anywhere else, and if they could, they would have probably been pushed out of the door by Jim Harbaugh. So with that being said, not a good thing in my opinion. The worst offense I can remember, maybe going back to 2008 under Rich Rod's first year. So 4 Harbaugh Heads in that one. They will return in 2018.
All right, the next one, Patterson. He's going to wear number 2, a Heisman-worthy number. Tell me your thoughts on that, James. Does it get you pumped?
Yeah, I mean, it does get me pumped. Number 2 is a famed jersey. I used to put like number 2. It's my personal email address after Charles Woodson in the 1997 season. And with that being said, Patterson's going to wear it. He is, I don't know if I ever remember a Michigan quarterback wearing 2. Like Tate Forcier wore a number 5. Guys like Chad Henne and some others wore number 7. Jim Harbaugh wore number 4 back in the day. But I don't know if I ever remember a quarterback wearing number 2. So it will be a cool position. Cam Newton, Johnny Manziel, a couple Heisman Trophy winners in the past 6-7 years that have worn that number 2 around the college football landscape. And with that being said, I am excited to see Shea Patterson wear that number 2.
All right, we have a comment coming up here from Mike. We'll get to that in a second. We're going to briefly touch over 2017. Not the best year for the Michigan Wolverines. Not Jim Harbaugh's best year. Talk about that a little bit, James.
At Twitter, CFB_analyst is the man's Twitter account. And he basically does a statistical analysis of all of college football. Went back and looked at Harbaugh's 2004 or 2017 coaching. Basically, it's the first time he's ever got an F for offense, defense, and special teams. The defense got an A. Special teams, I believe he gave a B-, but giving it an F. This is the worst statistical year Harbaugh's had. We take the whole kind of program, and so you can't necessarily put an FACK on that one because it's very subjective, but this is about as close to objective as you get as a statistical analytical analysis of Michigan's football team in 2017.
Definitely going to be some higher hopes looking at 2018. If Jim Harbaugh has a repeat year of 2017, I think it's safe to say that outlook would not be good for him.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, we will see what happens in 2018. Jim Harbaugh has to make a lot of changes to get to the Big Ten championship level, to beat Ohio State, to beat Michigan State, and beyond. So we will see what happens in 2018. But those are your 3 big rumors. Hamlin and Drevno to return, Patterson to wear number 2, and this was Jim Harbaugh's worst season, the 2017 season that we just witnessed.
All right, that was the Michigan Football Report. I'm your host, Lena Bond, and this is the Michigan Football Insider, James Yoder. Follow us on Twitter for everything Michigan Wolverines. But until then, we'll see you guys on Friday.